Andrew, I have to ask you straight off the bat, are you in a club or a bar right now?
Surprisingly, I'm in neither at this point.
I know you've only done this like once, and you had Ren Hiramoto on your show, who's like from a live from a bar or whatnot. But you seem to have this reputation of like recording these things in unorthodox places.
Yeah, I'm kind of like a hypocrite for I get very annoyed when I do interviews and people are in a bar or someplace. Particular comes down to two things. One, if it's a club or a bar, whatever. If YouTube picks up even one note of like that music, your video will be blocked immediately. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I'm a lazy person. I don't like doing editing of any kind. But also because sometimes people will not turn off their mic. So I'm hearing them as I'm talking, and it's bothering me, especially like all the background noise that I'm hearing. Especially if it's a restaurant, you just hear like clanging, you hear knives and tables, and especially because it's Ren Hiramoto. He was in a restaurant.
Ren Hiramoto ordering chowder.
Yes, yeah. So you know what happens whenever anybody enters a Japanese restaurant. Or was it Irashimase?
Irashimase.
Yeah. So every few minutes, I'm just hearing Irashimase, and I'm just like, ugh. It's just so annoying. Actually, I'll tell you this. So I've also come to hate interviews that are done in cars. And I did this with Aspen Ladd. So first of all, you shouldn't be doing while you're driving.
You've had a few of those.
So Aspen Ladd's case, this was for MMA Sucker. So she's driving and she's like clearly like looking down as we're talking, and I'm praying to God she like doesn't crash or anything like that. So no, I'm not in a club, I'm not in a bar. I'm in a quiet hotel room drinking here though.
In England?
Yes, in jolly old London, England.
And I must say, I enjoy your criticism because I believe I've been on numerous podcasts with you where you've been in a bar or driving your car.
Exactly. Yes, I will not say that I am not guilty of such things, and I have to. This is going to be my my Liver King apology. I fucked up, and I'm going to do better.
You did a preview of what Landmark in a bar.
Which Landmark?
I think it was the fairly recent one you just did.
Oh,
the
yes.
The landfill. The landfill.
Excuse me. I didn't refer to its proper title. Landfill.
Yeah. I think that's the one you're talking about. Also, the reason why sometimes I will just do them in bars, if the show I do not give a shit about, then I'll be like, whatever, I don't care. Like, I'll do it wherever. If it's a show I care about, I'll do it in the WeAreRizin Podcast studios where it has great sound and great visual images and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that Landmark show, I really didn't care about it for the most part.
Well,
Meanwhile, Jay Wolf hosted like a 6-hour podcast talking about it in nearly pornographic detail.
What?
Oh, I couldn't help but laugh. Andrew was teasing Jay Wolf on the Discord saying, I like how you say your podcast is going to be an hour, then it ends up being 5 hours long.
That's true. Anytime does a thing with Bellator and Team says we only got an hour to talk, and then suddenly 3 hours go by.
Well, one show that you do care for is the upcoming Rising 40, the annual New Year's Eve show, December 31st at Saitama Super Arena. And that's why we got you on the show today, because, who else to talk about this than the host of WeAreRizin? So we'll just kind of go through this. Not the whole card, because that's what WeAreRizin is for. You got 5 or 6 hours to go through it. But just in terms of some of your picks, some of your favorite bouts off the card so far, which ones do you guys like?
Well, I guess we got to preface this by saying I hope I can watch a show, because CJ, I think I saw you and Shu talk about how they didn't even know the press conference, how the show's going to be aired, that's a great sign. You don't even know, they always say in pro wrestling, you got to get 3 things. You got to say who you're fighting, who you're fighting, / stipulations, where it's happening, and the date. Those are 3 things you got to do. We know who's fighting, we know where it's happening, but we don't know, we know the date, but we don't know how to watch it, basically.
Yeah.
So if they don't know that, that's like,
I'm just getting flashbacks of the first Rising Bellator collab where people were literally asking like Scott Coker directly, like, how do we watch this? And he said like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, Scott Coker doesn't know. Not looking good.
So they still, I mean, I've not really been keeping my finger on the pulse of this because it's just been, how many times do we have to go for the same conversation? So they've not announced anything. It's nothing like, oh, Fight TV might. It's a to be confirmed thing.
So the only thing that's confirmed is that Showtime will be on. It'll be on Take the Delay Showtime 8 p.m.
That's what I'm familiar with.
Bellator Rizin portion. So I guess that'll be the 5 fights they announced. That puts the prelims in in jeopardy. Is that we're gonna get the same thing we did, like CJ said, with the whole these are prelims that you'll never ever see outside Japan type thing. I am not holding out hope, because if this stuff is not sorted out now, it's like, when will it be sorted? It's gonna be like, the day before, and then it's gonna be like,
which they've done before, which is
I will say this card is so stacked that if I wasn't in Japan for this, Rising's never geo-blocked their own streaming service. I would just order it off of Rising Live and watch it live that way.
I think they initially geo-blocked some of the Rising Stream Pass stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think it was geo-blocked. I think you had to have like a Japanese address or something.
Oh, the credit card thing. Yeah, mine.
So I found out people just looked up like hotel addresses and put that in there just to make sure it was like a real address, and they were able to make it work. But I would just do that.
All those hotels are going to get these random. They're just going to get like tons of mail, and they're going to be like, "Thank you for subscribing to Rizin." They're going to be like, "What the fuck What the fuck is going on here?"
I bet this is like the match where the whole K1 thing kind of stirred things up with their broadcasting, or so we assume. I bet Bellator being involved makes the Fight TV thing kind of difficult because Showtime wants the exclusive Bellator rights, probably for the US market. So it probably makes it confusing for them on how to release it in the US market with the Showtime deal at the same time.
In terms of fights, what are you guys looking forward to?
Well, I'm looking to Yuki Motoya.
Get the hell out of here.
Just kidding. Fuck that guy. Even though his last fight was exciting.
His fight actually does look fun. Even his fight looks fun.
I don't know why, but I'm always excited to see Bay Noah fight.
Okay.
It's always exciting.
Okay, so I have it written here. As much as I love this card, I really like this fight. I almost feel this fight shouldn't be on this card. Mm-hmm. This feels like this feels perfect, tailor-made for whatever trigger landmark should be. Two younger dudes with a name value, Beno especially. And that would be a perfect main event for something like a landmark or trigger.
I'm going to counter that with saying this card is awesome, but the one thing it is missing is kind of like that Japanese freak show Pride era matchmaking. And this kind of fills that niche for me. And we have the former kickboxer crossover going against the boxing crossover. And so we kind of get that old school, like this is a kickboxer versus a boxer kind of feel going. And that gets me excited, kind of nostalgic for me in that way.
Well, if you had to ask me for like a one fight out of all those that are I'm looking forward to, I was going to say two.
Two's fine, yeah. Like I said, I'm leaving all the in-depth analysis to you, and WeAreRizin. So,
oh God, don't do that. Oh God, you want people to listen and learn.
I do. I want people to listen to all 5 hours of it.
Oh, great. So, I guess from the non-MM Bellator Rizin promotion thing, I'm honestly looking for the John Dodson versus Tokuro. I'm very intrigued by how the fight goes, especially because Dodson hasn't been in MMA for a while. I know he's doing bare knuckle boxing. And Tokuro, listen, I will watch a Tokuro fight no matter who he's fighting, and he's still got it. Listen, he's the sole reason why that Makoto did not get into UFC, because he could not be finished by Makoto.
I feel people a bit hard on Makoto for that result.
Well, he also put a lot of pressure on himself. Like, and he even said, in the post-fight interview that like I tried to be like the villain or something and try to do all this trash talking, but then like I realized, oh, that's not really me. So you know, and also UFC likes finishes. They don't like guys who have like long ass records of like non-finishes. And I think he was trying to break that, and then well, he did good in his recent CF Cage Fury thing. So, you know, that will open the doors for him. But listen, love Tokoro, love seeing him. It's two veterans from different promotions, two different countries. I would almost say two different styles. Dodson more stand-up striker, and Tokoro obviously a grappling guy. So I'm just really intrigued to see how that fight goes. I don't know if it's at. It says you're a flyweight.
Which if it is flyweight, then what was your story, CJ? Seeing Tokoro at the hotel?
Yeah, when I saw Tokoro at the hotel, people didn't even recognize him. There were fans like waiting to meet fighters, and he looked like a skeleton walked by.
Yeah, historically, I think he'd only done like one or two flyweight 57 kg bouts prior to that. Maybe in Valetudo, Japan, off the top of my head.
See, I haven't watched Dodson's recent stuff, but I used to like him in the UFC. But then, like after the Demetrius Johnson fight, I feel like the image was he got kind of boring. He went from like a lot of exciting knockouts to trying to squeak out decisions as his career went by. And I'm just hoping something like that doesn't happen here, because was his fight style, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, to just essentially sit on the outside and then try to use his speed to leap in and land a big punch?
Yeah, well, he was always like I mean, other than Horiguchi, like he was maybe the fastest. I mean, I guess, and then obviously DJ, like in terms of, it's kind of like lightning quick, wait for people to come in and then kind of get in with that punch because I'm lightning fast. Yeah. Wasn't always successful, but at that time, he was legitimately maybe the toughest competition that DJ had, not named Kyoji.
Well, I remember that fight because I think DJ low blow, eye pokes, and hit him with an illegal knee to the head. Like he got like, I remember laughing because he got like one of every foul without a point taken.
Yeah. I mean, until Cejudo, listen, you know, it was kind of just like Dodson and DJ ruling the 125 division. That's what it really was.
Ian McCall had his moments. Rising veteran Ian McCall had his brief moments.
Yes. He had his brief moments.
Was that the fight that he should have won, but the Australian judges forgot to go to the extension round?
I think so. The tournament you're talking about, right?
Yes, exactly.
125 tournaments, which ended in a draw of all things. And that's the reason why UFC doesn't do tournaments anymore. It
was supposed to have an extension round, but like the commission just completely forgot about it or something.
Yeah, that's the reason why UFC doesn't do tournaments anymore. Like that shit, because they're like, that totally just ruined the opportunity to make a new champion. They had to wait to rebook that fight months later. Yeah. And then obviously DJ won that and went on his rule the 125 division forever. But I think I will say, but you know, sometimes, you know, I get what you're saying, but maybe the time away from MMA will kind of re-spark his I guess passion or his fire inside. I'm really intrigued to see what that layoff does. Listen, there's two types of layoffs. One, and we talked about before, the Dominic Cruz Mizugaki, I think it was. Return,
greatest comeback, the greatest return performance of all time.
Yeah. Then you have, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, who had like a shitty return, like
Cain Velasquez.
Oh yes, Nagano, right? We're talking about the Nagano part. Yeah. Okay, like that. Just like absolute, looks like absolute shit in your fight. So yeah, it can go either way. But I'm intrigued just because it's kind of like it's like a fight that you just never would picture happening. I did hear that they tried to bring in Dodson for originally last year to fight Horiguchi in a non-title fight. That's what I heard.
So that would have been interesting. That's pretty interesting because their styles are so similar in many ways.
And just quickly, the Bellator versus MMA portion, I'll say McKee versus Satoshi, because in the CJ, you know, you always doubted Satoshi. I don't know if you're gonna knock down him this time, but this will legitimately be his toughest competition to date. This is like no ifs, ands, or buts. If he beats AJ McKee, then he is number 2 best lightweight in the world.
I feel like I have to keep doubting him now just to help him win. I feel like if I actually say he'll win, he'll lose. So
well, McKee has a lot of has experience beating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. So I struggle, like if McKee is able to keep this off the ground. I'm not sure how much Satoshi's striking has. I don't know, because he's got Suzuki there at Bonsai Gym, but I don't know how much it's improved for me to feel comfortable with him keeping on the feet.
I agree.
So,
I
assume that's what McKee will probably feel more comfortable keeping on the feet.
Well, here's the thing. So, I guess I forgot who said it, but there's a saying that there's black belts and then there's black belts. Satoshi is a black belt. This, like, I think maybe the best, maybe other than Charles Oliveira, the best jiu-jitsu MMA guy. Maybe actually better at this point, considering Dude Bronx's last fight. But listen, if it goes to the ground, I think Satoshi can be the first person to ever finish him. I really do believe that. And his striking has gotten better. I know what you're saying.
Because I'm still thinking about the Johnny Case fight. This is the first one.
That is the fight that permanently ruined my impression of him as a fighter. And
I don't think I can recall many more fights since then where he's really stayed on his feet longer than a minute.
That's a good point. Well,
maybe I can't remember the second Yachi fight, but that's Yachi. This is a whole different kettle of fish. Because the first Case fight, you could tell he was looking a little bit uncomfortable in the exchanges. So and like I said, yeah, McKee is more capable of knocking people out. So
also, I'm gonna add one more, is that I'm actually kind of curious about the Sidario fight as well. Because I mean, when I hear that the opponent's being trained by Mark Hunt and that he's got a kickboxing background, let's not joke, Sidario is primarily a striker. This might be one of the first like legitimate mixed martial artists that he's going up against. His last fight was pretty interesting too. Was that guy from Lithuania or Hungary or something?
I want to say something along those lines, maybe Bulgaria,
yeah. And that fight was it was interesting because that guy looked like an MMA fighter as well. So now that Sidario is getting legitimate opponents, I'm more interested in his fights. And this guy looks like he's a big striker. And so it'll be good to see what Sidario can do against another striker.
But God damn it, CJ, we should have gone Sidario versus Fedor, just like you wanted, on CBS. Instead of Bader versus Bader.
The fight nobody asked for. Fedor's U.S. peak was him versus Brett Rogers. That was the best U.S. performance.
For me, because you've covered, guys, I covered most of the other fights. I'm really looking forward to Kyoji Ogikubo 3. I think actually in terms of the history and the story, it makes a very intriguing fight. The first fight way back in 2013 in Shuto, that was pretty much the fight that got Kyoji like into the UFC. He won the belt off Ogi. He had a couple of fights in Valley to Japan afterwards, but that was a big stepping point for him. The second fight, that was more so Ogi trying to capitalize and use Horiguchi to use Horiguchi's name and success to get him back into like the world's eye, world competition, and sadly coming up short. This one I see. Maybe you guys can correct me if you don't agree with this, but I feel they're kind of similar points in their career where they maybe have one more good run in them, and a win over the other would push them towards that.
I agree that
maybe more so Ogikubo, I'd say, but I know Kyoji's still 31 or so, but the Bellator run has not really filled me with much confidence.
I know, but I lie to myself and tell myself that it's because Horiguchi's fighting at the wrong weight class.
Well, this is at 57.
Yes.
So he's back at flyweight.
I meant I lie to myself and say his Bellator performances are based off of his weight, and that the guys he was fighting were giants. And he got lucky the first time he won a title because that guy has zero fight IQ.
Oh, Caldwell? Yeah.
Caldwell has the opposite of fight IQ. But I feel bad. I don't want to count Ogikubo out because I've kind of felt like he's been on that teetering point for years now, and he's still maintained high performance level despite that. So, but he is getting older, and realistically, if he wants to fight outside of Rizin, this is probably his last chance to do that.
Mm.
So I kind of agree with you on that sense. I think Horiguchi still has more of a future ahead of him, especially in the Japanese market. Maybe if he loses this, his dreams of international competition might diminish a little bit. But yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I think so. I know there's that like rematch is like the dirty word in MMA for some reason. I don't know why people hate rematches so much. I love rematches, especially with the way that this has progressed. Like you said, first fight. Okay, if you've seen that first fight, he walked through Ogi Kubo like it was like
very much so. Yeah.
Walk. Second fight, I remember. So I saw that I was there live for that at Rizin 11. And I was kind of like, why the fuck are you booking this? This fight makes no sense. It's totally stupid. He beat this guy way earlier. I don't care if he's if Okubo's whatever flyweight champ, Shuto flyweight champion. That doesn't mean shit because he hasn't. That fight was kind of like, I'm trying to think, like in the 1980s territory pro wrestling day. You would have like, say if you had a champion come in from another territory into your territory. You would have your guy lose, but it would be in his hometown, and he would look, even though in defeat, he would look good. And to me, that fight with the second fight with Kubo was basically Ogi Kubo looking great in defeat because he wasn't going to go down without a fight. And he essentially won, basically, like, got his whole career basically like, yeah, I basically survived Horiguchi, and it looked not good against him, but I survived him.
It's been fascinating. Sorry to cut you off. It's been really fascinating watching Ogi Kubo's like development. Like if you had said to me, when was the first fight? 2011, 2012, that Ogi Kubo would be on a big stage in Japan, putting on exciting fights, I would have not believed you, because when they fought the first time, in Shuto, I saw Ogi Kubo as a very, very conservative fighter. Didn't really take too many risks, so it was a relief when Kyoji beat him for the belt, because Kyoji was the younger, more exciting fighter. But especially like winning the Grand Prix last year, and like the fights, like the fight since then, Ogi's fantastic. I actually kind of secretly hope he wins here.
I was just thinking what Andrew's thing was. It the second, not just his like career progression, but it's kind of interesting to see him develop as a fighter personality, because was it that second Okikubo fight where he carved the kanji for death into his head? Like he shaved,
I believe so, yeah,
death into his hair, and was like, I'm willing to die in the ring if it means beating Horiguchi. And it honestly looked like a guy walking to his funeral. He was like, I'm going to go out there, die on my shield trying to beat this guy. And his performance in the Grand Prix was not easy. He he grinded out victories and used his cardio and stamina just to like smother people. But that had to be exhausting performances for him. And to see him still be able to like grind those out in his, like, this advanced part of his career, I'm really impressed. And if he beat Horiguchi, that would be absolutely nuts. I think people would go crazy.
I do think the one caveat though is that it's weird because even Kyoji said this, that like he's representing Bellator and Ogi was representing Rizin. So, and I think what was it? I think Horiguchi said that like he feels kind of like betraying, like, or like he doesn't know, he feels like uncomfortable, like kind of like being like monkey in the middle almost.
Just turn heel.
Was that?
Just turn heel.
Oh, he should come. Yeah, he should come out to like real. Horiguchi should come out to like real America. Brandish like the U.S. flag. Scott Coker should be like right behind him, wearing his sunglasses and like has a cigar in his mouth and clapping or something. No, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because I think it is kind of like almost the symbolic end of that flyweight era, with these two finally like having like their third and potentially probably their final match against each other. I don't know what they do after. I'll be honest. I think that I feel like Ogi Kubo can go probably longer than maybe Horiguchi at this point. I think that Horiguchi, now we're starting to see like his career, like his physical decline with the loss against Patchy Mix. I know he had the leg injury a few years ago against Kai. I think, I don't know how much longer he's in for the game. I think he'd rather just do some fishing at this point.
Something that I should really care about in the women's super atomweight tournament is now something that is kind of like an afterthought of Rising 40.
I forgot that the finals was on like the show. I actually just noted on the Wikipedia thing when I went to look it up. It's not even in the back of my head that finals is actually happening.
I hate to say that Jay Wolf is right, but Jay Wolf is right in the regard that having this just be one fight instead of having the semifinals and finals in the same night, I think was a mistake. I think if the semifinals and finals were on the same night, there'd be a lot more drama involved, and there'd be like the mystery of like who's going to make it to the finals.
Also, they don't get alternates though.
I do want to compare this. I want to compare it. Just look at the original atomweight tournament they had. That did crazy numbers when it was Rena versus Kana Asakura in the finals. And I don't know if it's just because Siwoo Park is a charisma vacuum and Seika Izawa is like trying really hard to be charismatic, but just doesn't seem to have it. And Kana Asakura and Rena were very popular, but it just doesn't have the same feel as the same atomweight tournament, and no one is talking about it, which is kind of unfortunate because they're both really good, but I just don't think, Siwoo Park really doesn't have any charisma. So it really falls on Seika, who just seems to cry a lot during her speeches. So, but yeah, most people forgot this fight's even happening. In defense of the atomweight tournament, if Rena hadn't gotten injured, I think it would have been more interesting.
Yes, absolutely. No, we don't need a deep main event rematch in the co-main or whatever the fuck they're gonna put it at. I probably when Sakakibara got that call from from that Reina got injured, he probably just cried for like an hour after he cried after.
Well, this was probably wasn't this. I'm trying to think what the. Yeah, this was probably what it was going to be anyway, because depending on how Izawa Rena would have went, but it would have gone down. But
it would have been super interesting though. I was interested in that fight.
Yeah, me too.
I think we'll get that. I think we'll get that fight in the future, which will be very interesting. But I'm super excited for this show. Like I said, that Rising Osaka show was really rough, and and I don't think they caught my attention a little bit with that kind of double header they had in Tokyo, where they had Satoshi.
Bob, why do all their Osaka shows tend to suck? Like whenever there's Osaka, they never go well. There's always something that goes wrong with them, and they just seem like it seems
you Kansai people will take the scraps we give you. Yeah, James, Andrew's got a point though, because even the Okinawa cards are kind of better than the Osaka cards.
I really don't know what it is, because that March show really is like I went just because I just why not? But I was watching the entire time thinking because I think maybe even the Tokyo cards with Satoshi Case, the Izawa, Hamazaki, they're all announced. I think they were announced by that point. I was like, just give us, I don't know, even give us Saito, Ushikotu. Could even give us Saito, Ushikotu. No. Yeah, well. But
there's no better example than the best way to see how Rising thinks of Osaka was last year, the event after the Tokyo Dome, where it was like, we're going to put all of the popular fighters from the Tokyo Dome. Then everyone else in the tournament that we don't really care about, we're going to put them on the Osaka show.
I don't know, but there are some potentially fun fights. I think I'd hope if we get Ren Hagiwara 2, that could go down in Osaka, but I don't know.
Unfortunately, if you don't, I don't know if you saw it, Lenny Hart's not going to be at Rizin 40. Unfortunately,
I did see that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Have they still decide what they're going to do with this Inoki?
They better do nothing. They better do nothing.
I wonder if it's kind of been shifted towards this.
Because there's another show. There's another show happening, right?
Ganryujima, Bombaye. So they're kind of like doing a combined thing, I think. Sorry, Babu.
No, go for it. They've combined that.
Ganryujima,
Ganryujima. It's so they used to be a thing, and then as a result of the late great Antonio Inoki's passing, they've kind of decided, well, we're going to milk that for what it's worth and have a show at Kokugikan in his honor. Did you see the fight they recently announced? It might as well just be the main event for everyone.
Wasn't it Yachi versus Philippe?
Minoru Kimura. Yes. Did you see that, Andrew?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I don't know. Are they, so I don't know if they're doing like portion that's going to be like in moats or like.
I think the whole
like,
thing. I think the whole thing's in a moat, but I could be wrong. But that was the point of Gurujima that was on the moat.
Okay, that would be hilarious because when you, I just think of these like 0-0 heavyweights or like negative record fighters just trying to push each other out of the ring, and it's just like but like now you're actually having skilled people in this.
Oh, I mean, no, Yachi and Kimura is going to be hilarious. They're both going to go for flying knees, both simultaneously miss, and then go flying into the front row.
What if Crazy Horse comes out of nowhere and knocks out both of them?
I would be all for it, and I think that would be booking that even Inoki would blush over.
And you got Fat Ninja, maybe the best heavyweight BJJ guy in Japan, take on Malvin Manhoef, who's never taken a BJJ class in his life. I'm so like, I just think the show is so just like it's so out of nowhere, and you're just booking these like fights. These are fights that Rizin. You know, CJ, you mentioned that that crazy, kind of like that shit fight that Rizin's got to book. Gamryojima just did like they did 5-6 of them in a year for that Rizin hasn't been able to really do other than maybe Jizzy Cozy this year. So I think Gamryojima, this show has my eyes. Like I legitimately like want to be able to watch it and pay for it legally.
Okay, so
I'm just hoping that this show ends up being like the Inoki tribute show, and that Rizin just does like a nice little video package, and that's it, and leaves the pro wrestling off the card. You
just don't want because you were at that. No, it wasn't Dynamite at that point. You were at the Genki Deska show where they had the
where I had to watch Tim Sylvia wrestle for 90 minutes. It was absolutely brutal.
Right. Enough of that filth. On to the good stuff. The kickboxing. Oh, actually, well, hold on. I just realized we're not going to go straight onto the Rise show yet. We've got to talk about Panchan very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So in case there's anyone who's not heard about it, Panchan Rina has recently been arrested for forging the signatures of Tenshin and Tekuru on a poster of the match.
What was supposed to be like, I think it's like an exclusive poster.
Yes, and a man in his 30s in Kobe purchased the poster. But when I first saw this headline, I thought like it's like, I think I saw the comment. It seemed like an AI generated headline. It's like I couldn't believe what I was reading.
I was trying to say to Shu, but I really couldn't get it across clearly, is that it seems so stupid to me because she seems to be running this giant like free market. By free market, I mean like Yahoo auction, Medicati. Just for those who don't know those artists, like imagine like a bunch of different eBay services selling used goods. And it actually seems like labor intensive. I'm like, why would it? There's legitimate ways for you to make easier money that isn't illegal. I don't know why you're not doing those things. It's all very confusing to me.
It's I'm trying to think of like what would be a comparable like incident. This is kind of like almost like what they say in USA when they say like Florida man.
Yeah.
This is like a Florida man crime. They're like, well, first of all, how did she think she was going to get away with it? First of all, it's one of those things that just the odds are against you. Second of all, Panchan Rina is, excuse my language, is incredibly beautiful woman. There are hundreds of avenues for her to make money.
She's explored these avenues recently. She released one of those. She released a book, one of those photo books. Yeah, just basically her in bikinis and swimsuits and all the stuff that makes Jay Wolf go horny.
CJ, your favorite Durrani has an OnlyFans, and I don't know how to.
I feel like people immediately jump to OnlyFans, and I want to be like, you don't have to sell naked pictures of yourself to make money. She could do that, but I also want to say, like, she knows Tenshin. She is friends with Tenshin. She is friends with Mikuru and Kai. She could literally just have them sign it for real and then sell it. Like, she doesn't have to forge it herself. And also all these other fighters have creative ways of making money. It just seems incredibly lazy. Like King Rina used to host these giant barbecues where people would come and pay money to come like have a giant barbecue with her. I know that Crazy Bee did stuff like that. And I know that Rena also has her own fan club. She could make like a Patreon. So while OnlyFans is there, that is an option. If she doesn't want to do that, there's also still like 1,000 other things she could do to raise money for herself.
Listen, I'm pretty sure that Knockout isn't paying her big bucks. I'm pretty sure. But like, I'm also curious about the circumstances for why she did this. It's just one.
Yeah. There's so for those who aren't aware, Panchan has been injured throughout this whole year. I forget the extent of the injury, but it's
like an ACL or a knee injury.
I believe that's the case. And like you said, it's knockout. It's kickboxing in general. She's not going to be paid an incredible amount. So I mean, all the rest is going to come through her sponsors. So I mean, I do sympathize with her in that regard. But like you said, there was other ways to go about this, like to make a little extra money just to while you're on the injury sidelines. It's the same pen. It's like doing both signatures with the same pen that gets me.
Also, just to highlight what Shu said, maybe someone should have sat her down and be like, "I'm sorry to say this, but it looks like you're probably going to have to get a job." Like, it looks like you're not going to be able to be a professional fighter who doesn't fight for a year and still be able to pay for your bills.
I'm also curious to know. So, I didn't see. I can't remember the actual picture. So, did she write the names in kanji or did she write them like in English?
No. It looks like somebody tried to copy the legitimate signatures. Like, it looks like someone looked at the signatures and tried to copy them, but they did it in the same pen at the same time. And all of the official ones, I mean, Takedo and Tenshin weren't in the same room. They were using different types of pens, so they don't look the same.
It's just like, I'm just trying to think of the thought process. Like, the end goal, the short-term value of this could not have been could not have at all, like, all the bad things that could potentially come out of this could not have equaled just that short-term value of $800.
Yes, that's not even like a month of her rent. It's like, that's an insanely stupid amount of money to have done this for.
Were there similar items where she had, like, she forged signatures?
I haven't seen anything that says that, but what I will say is she had numerous accounts across numerous platforms, and she's selling like hundreds and hundreds of items. And like, she was selling a wetsuit. She was selling like those things that girls put inside to, like, when they're not wearing a bra. It was weird. She's selling all sorts of weird stuff. And it's to the point where it looked like a legitimate, like, business, like the amount of goods she's selling. Do you think there might be I wonder if you sell a certain amount of that, if you also have to declare it on your taxes, because she's of the profits she's making. But that's just a random thought I just had. But the issue is, it's fraud. So everyone's going to think she's a liar now. It just fucks her in so many. It's such a stupid crime. And I think the other thing going against her is I don't think she's an exciting kickboxer.
So ignoring Rizin, because I don't think Rizin really were going to bring her back anyway.
No, I think they tried it and it wasn't worth it.
Even Knockout, I think, must be wondering. Because I don't know if you guys were aware, because this was near the time of where the match, like the peak fever, like, but a couple of weeks after was a scheduled show by Knockout in Yoyogi Gymnasium 2, which is good, which for Knockout in its current incarnation was a big deal. Well, was going to be a big deal, but Panchan got injured with this ACL injury or whatever she has, and they were forced to reschedule to this March. And I mean, I don't know what her. I assume, I don't know if she'll be able to get out in time or like be able to. Just the stink of this whole thing will wash off by then. And even then, like she was like talking to the press about like, oh, I don't know if I can really kick as hard as I used to. I might have to do like kind of like these stand up rules or like boxing rules or whatever. I was wondering if like Knockout Miyata will be like thinking, this seems a lot more trouble than it's worth.
Well, I think the boxing comments came because I don't think her knee is better yet. And I think it kind of, in hindsight, reveals, oh, she's having financial problems. She needs to take a fight to make money. And that's why she's talking about, like, I got to do a boxing match. I got to do something where I can fight and make some money. because she has a semi-popular YouTube video channel, but it's not near the level of like actually making decent money. Because I mean, you have to have millions of views just to make a couple bucks on YouTube. So she's not making any money on her YouTube channel. And she does all this free stuff. Like she goes on Breaking Down. She goes on Miku's and Kai's Canvas.
That was the big surprise I found out from you and Shu's show. So that's free. She doesn't get paid for any of that.
I don't think Miku pays any of those people. I think it's one of those things where come on my show and you'll get famous.
Okay, Mikuru Tanigawa
I mean, he was the guy that would. Andrew, didn't you try to interview the Asakura brothers and they don't do interviews for free?
The Asakura brothers, yeah. Also knows why Drake Riggs. Remember, he had everybody on for the. I think it was him, or was it John Hyun Ko? One of them had like everybody for the bantamweight, the bantamweight tournament. There was one person that was missing. And that was Kai. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't Drake. It was John Hyun Ko. Sorry. Kai's done Drake before. I don't know if he does them anymore, but he has done in the past.
Well, that's because Drake's partner is the rising matchmaker that can make them do it.
He's got the red Batman phone. I can believe that all those guys don't get paid. Yeah, I feel it's like what do you call it? You get paid in exposure type thing.
Like, I have no confirmation, but that is what it seems to be to me. Everybody involved in Breaking Down, nobody's getting paid. None of the contestants, nobody's getting paid except for the people in charge.
Who would it, plus who would it be? You know, if anybody, it's probably a Bima who's like, right? Isn't that kind of, they're probably just paying
it's not a Bima, right? It's on he has his own sponsors. I mean,
okay.
And plus the YouTube value he gets from the views. Because those Breaking Down videos do like close to 10 million views. And he has his own legitimate sponsorships.
I thought it was on a Bima for some reason. It's not on Bima?
It is when the pay-per-view happens, the pay-per-view is on Mikuru's website and it's also on a Bima.
Okay, gotcha. And also here's the other thing. So she's got a store. Now that comes into question. What other science stuff she had and then sold is now, but it was potentially also, forged. That opens up in a whole new can of worms because I kind of wanted to, don't want to put more oil on this fire, but if she forged these, what's the likelihood that she forged others? Probably like pretty high if she's willing to do with Tension and Takaru.
Well, it's also weird because Babalu will know more about this, but not a lot of places for women kickboxers in the world. And you burn one bridge. Maybe Rise thinks you're more trouble than it's worth. Maybe K1's not interested.
I don't know. I made a comment that Kazuo Misaki can talk on the phone while driving, then flee the police and smash in the police car, and then go on that same year and fight Kaz Nakamura. Then she can come back. But I'm just wondering if if Knockout say, oh, this isn't worth it, I have a really hard time thinking if the others, I don't know, K1's pretty shameless, so maybe he might go there. But there's limited roads.
I'll be clear. I think she will be back. She will fight again. It's just a matter of how much does this damage her reputation and stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. I know, and here's the thing. You guys can correct me, but it seems like when it comes to certain, there's like nobody really gets fully canceled in Japan, but like there is like a time period, like the like that wrestler who got like someone like put cocaine in their suitcase or something, and then they got caught by Japanese officials, and then
just look at Rising. Every canceled celebrity makes an appearance at Rising a month later.
And actually, if anything, she might be booked on the New Year's Eve card if she's out fast enough.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, actually, I take that back.
She and Bobby Olligan will walk to the ring together.
Oh my God!
Now that they're not on Fuji TV, I expect to see them hiring more canceled celebrities than anything. Now Sakakibara's not being held back. Now he can hire the people he really wants to hire.
Complete sleaze.
Really lean into it.
So, Rise is back this Christmas Day. They're bringing along shootboxing and Glory along for the ride for a really spectacular looking mega show. It's like basically 3 shows in one. You got the Rise World Series, Shoot Boxing will have a bunch of stuff in there, and Glory will host one of their. Well, I say Glory. I mean, it's really Rise that are putting it all together, but it'll be under the Glory Rivals banner, where they have the best of Rise versus the best of Glory competing against each other. This is the best versus the best. There's very little, like, it's not a bunch of mid-cars taking on each other. This is some really good stuff. You got former champions fighting each other, like recent title contenders fight each other.
I will say, with my limited kickboxing knowledge, despite Babalu's best efforts to educate me, this card looks absolutely stacked, even from like a guy that just somewhat watches perspective. I'm like, oh, all of these guys are really famous fighters. This is pretty crazy. It's a stacked card.
So the main one I'm looking forward to, and I think we'll go to this one because you guys have talked about, Shoot Boxing, Organization of the Year, standout in the match. And the guy who kind of led all that was Kaito, his incredible win over Masaki Noiri. So I should say, this is a 70 kilogram bout. I believe the previous Kaito bout was at 70 kilograms. Kaito struggled with his opponent in Osaka. He really struggled with the power and came away with a very close decision. I believe it might have went to the extension. I'll need to double check. And that was against, I don't even believe, it wasn't even against a guy who was like top 10. Like, it was a guy who maybe had one fight in like the past couple of years. Here, he's fighting Bulgarian Stoyan Koplevensky. Hopefully I'm saying that name right, who is top 10 in Glory, and recently coming off a loss where he competed for the Glory 70 kilogram title. So, and from all accounts, from everything I've seen, the footage I've seen, Koplevensky is very aggressive, very explosive. I know I said this for the Noiri fight, but I worry for Kaito here.
Yeah, you talked about wanting him to see him fight at a lower weight class.
I wanted to see it at least 67, around 67. Let me see. Andrew, you got anything you want to add just while I'm having a quick look?
Well, I agree with CJ. It's stacked. I mean, like, they're stacked with like a capital S and all the letters are capital. I love that. It's a weird mishmash of kickboxing and shoot boxing kind of like snuck in there. I think that's the kind of like the thing that's not. It seems, I think it's only be promoted as Rise versus Glory, but I wish shoot boxing kind of got like a little bit of a credit in there as well. Nobody's like, oh hey,
they're on the show. It just it's further down the card. Really, you see more. Of the Glory.
They kind of feel bad for them that they kind of got like shafted. They should have like at least Kaito's in a weird position where he kind of is representing both. I kind of wish that he had been like co-main event shoot boxing thing.
Yeah, that's the point I would like to make. That it seemed very detrimental, especially in that kind of period in August, where he's coming off the big win, and then they put him against a really a tough opponent, very powerful, strong opponent who it seemed like take a lot out of him. He seemed very tired, fatigued by the end of that fight. And then not long, like probably 4 weeks later, he was fighting in Corkin Hall. Like I think I even said it at the time to CJ and Dogman. It's like I would give Kaito the rest, essentially. I didn't think it was really worth rushing him into a fight at Corkin Hall.
I'm just gonna say that, and I think we kind of saw this with Yaman in his last fight. I think the problem is in a post-tension, post-talk group kickboxing world, I think these promotions, both K1, Rise, whoever, are desperately trying, kind of like Rizin now. They kind of find somebody who they can be the poster boy for their promotion. And I think, Rise tried to have Yaman. I know he lost his last fight. I don't know if that interrupts his momentum, but I think Rise might see that in Kaito. And I think that's kind of why, maybe that's also pressure on himself. It's kind of like I have to kind of take all these fights if I want to keep my name in the headlines type thing.
There seems to be a pressure with these especially these shoot boxers, to live up to, or to, maybe CJ can verify this. There seems to, with Rena as well, there seems to be a lot of pressure with them to, at least for used to be, that they would like do both. They would like go off and like fight outside of shoot boxing, but they would then come home and then fight at in front of your 1,000 people crowds at Corrigan Hall. And it seems, especially maybe more so for Kaito, it seems maybe it's a little too much. I don't know.
Well, I mean, what is the best example? That Rena went to a press conference and didn't even know that the press conference was announcing her MMA debut, something that she didn't know she was doing. So it's fair to say that shoot boxing puts a lot of pressure on their fighters. It's interesting to see that they're putting Misaki on this card. So maybe they're trying to make her like their new Rena. Because I know that she's expressed interest in fighting Rena in the past, but that's not going to happen. So maybe they're trying to put her on these Rise shows now to kind of build her profile. It's very heartening to hear you guys who maybe not so familiar with the kickboxing scene, or just I don't have as much time to look at this card and think, wow, this looks pretty ace. That's cool. And for someone like yourself, Andrew, you'll be able to like Rise, don't geo block, because I don't know if this one will be any different, but you'll be able to watch this quite easily, I hope.
This being on Christmas, why that? Okay, first of all, that would never happen in America. You would never put a show, MMA, wrestling, whatever, on Christmas. Is there a reason why this is on Christmas? And like, is that a smart move?
So
it's not a big deal. Christmas here
No, I mean, it's a big deal, but it's not the same as the other country. It's not the same as the West.
Sorry, that's
Christmas in Japan is more of like children receive presents, but for adults, it's more of like a date day, I would say.
More for couples, yeah.
For couples, it's something that couples do in Japan.
Yeah, the family thing that we're familiar with in Christmas, that's more saved for New Year's Eve and the New Year's Day and the following days.
Gotcha.
So I'd say the kids wake up, they open presents, but couples go out on dates. And for couples that like martial arts, this is kind of the perfect event for them to go to.
So CJ, you can ask Mrs. CJ, hey, for a date night, let's go see Kaito versus Stoyan Koprivensky, or whatever his name is.
Well, I am actually in the unfortunate position that this is also my wife's birthday, and so I will be unable to go. But even if I was able to go, I would not be going to Rise, unfortunately. I'd be going to the Pancrase show that is also on the same day.
There's also a Deep Kick show on the same day. So Merry Christmas to us.
Merry Christmas to all of us.
I'm curious to know, do you know how the show's tickets are selling well or anything like that?
I don't know. I haven't seen anything to indicate. So I guess we'll find out on the day. It's very difficult nowadays with kickboxing, especially because so I was at the K1 show last week, and really people come and go just whenever, because it's all the people from the gyms and whatnot. And maybe I don't see Kento, or maybe Kaito, I don't know, but I don't see there's really much of a casual outsider draw. Maybe those guys I mentioned.
For some reason, to me, the Suzuki Shiro fight kind of sticks out.
Oh,
that's because Masaki Suzuki is the best and deserves everything that's Tenshin, Takeru, whoever has, and more. He is the best. I absolutely love Masaki Suzuki.
I gotta give a shout out to him, Chad Collins, who is on a legitimate upward trajectory since being able to leave the prison colony of Australia. He's destroyed everybody he's facing Rise right now, and I think it will probably destroy Kasahara pretty handily. And I think Rise wants to do a rematch between those two. I think that's what they're trying to go for. That they're hoping Kaito wins his fight, Chad Collins wins his fight. They can do the big rematch.
Let me just check the weight, because it might not match, unfortunately.
Chad's at 63.5.
Yeah, Chad's at 63. So I mean, it probably should be at 65, but if they do that, but.
And then we got Pep. Poor Kento. I think Kento's gonna not. I don't know, man. Kento against foreigners tends to not go very well. Apparently, that's his Achilles heel, is facing foreigners.
Well, Kento looked. I was impressed with Kento the last round or two of the Pechpanrong second fights. I think he was a lot more composed, had a lot more success in the pocket. Adam Shook, I don't know. I haven't seen too much to suggest. Like, from everything I've seen of Kobylevsky, I worry for Kaito. I don't get that Adamchuk is as explosive as that.
Do you think if Yaman hadn't lost his recent fight, you think he'd be on this card?
No. Well, I mean, Yaman's fighting style. He's like, he should just get arrested either way, I think.
Yeah, he really should.
It's been an insane year for him. And that was a. Did you guys see the
that's nuts.
Absolutely crazy fight. I think that did more for both of them, but more for Yaman losing that fight. It was very much the gallant underdog story with that, and I think most people came out with him loving him more. And probably I liked how Taiju played along with the whole like I want to kill handsome men angle that they were doing. I really appreciate that, and I think it made me appreciate like Taiju a little bit more. He didn't come off as boring as he used to, or as he usually does.
Most personalities ever shown, I think, probably ever.
The other fight
was Kobayashi's last fight against Kipney von Soest in Europe.
She's fought since then. She looked pretty good, and it was in a show, one of the numbered shows in Corrigan Hall. But she has come off. She is coming off a win. But yes, that was the one you're talking about. I did see that she got massacred.
Well, in her defense, I think she went up and waited for that fight as well. But let's hope she does better against her next foreigner in this card.
The other fight I'm looking forward to is Seiki Uyama and Koki Ozaki. Uyama, I love. And Andrew, did you see the Uyama Suzuki fight from Osaka?
Yeah. Where
Uyama dropped him. I'm using the quote for it. It was a drop, but it was more of a slip, and then it was
kind of like that phantom drop. That phantom drop.
Suzuki basically was just fighting, was pressuring the entire time to get the comeback win. And Uyama has a chin made out of rock, or at least he did in that fight.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
But they both look great in that fight. So listen, Uyama, since like he was on WeAreRizin, is like has been kind of like my low-key favorites. There's a problem also I have in kickboxing. I'll see somebody in Rizin and then I'll never hear about them. And then when they like have a fight in Rizin, whatever, they have like 3 fights beforehand and like knockout or whatever. I'm like, fuck, I would have watched those fights. So like sometimes these guys just disappear and you don't hear about them. And Uyama was kind of one of them until he started appearing on those Rise shows.
This one might be interesting because Uyama does like to use the shoot boxing rules to his advantage. I have seen a couple of his shoot boxing fights where he does go for the throws, and I'm very curious to see how. Well, first of all, if Uyama goes for the throws, standing subs, whatnot, and how Osaki defends it. So I think that's a really good crossover match.
You mean if he's one of the rare shoot boxers to actually use shoot boxing's rules? Yeah,
because we talked about. I remember me, you, and Jin talked about Yuki Kasahara and Huma, which I don't think Yuki Kasahara really implements the throws as much. So it was. I don't believe Huma had anything to worry about there. It's a great card. The only thing I'm worried about is, and maybe this kind of apply. Well, I don't really care much for the Inoki show, but because they're all kind of bunched together with Rising, which is already quite expensive, I'm wondering how the others will do ticket sales wise.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying this trend of $1,000 plus tickets.
Rise is much cheaper. I think the cheapest is about 8,000 or so, 8,000 yen.
It's 8,000 yen, yeah.
Hey, let's not forget Deep Kick, probably the cheapest out of all of them.
That's true, man. But I'll be out of the country, so I cannot go.
I will say, I like the Rise price. Look at the prices now. Getting S Seki for Ichiman Gosen for like 1,500. That is perfect for me. I like the pricing on it.
Let me just check what else we got yet.
I will say that on the same day the Pancrase go, it's in Yokohama, and I love that the poster just says, "Yes, we're back in Yokohama."
So that is, maybe we can talk about that very quickly. That must be their biggest show in years, because that's the new Yokohama Budokan, which is not the biggest venue in the world, but it is bigger than what Pancrase have been having recently.
No, I mean, I don't have a lot to talk about the show. It's just I don't have a lot to talk about in the show. It's just Karen's fighting, and whenever Karen's fighting, I will pay attention.
I just see it as Karen and a bunch of older dudes.
Yeah,
Which,
for some reason,
that sounds wrong, but that essentially what the card looks like.
For some reason, Pancrase is obsessed with Ryo from Outsider, the guy that has a sketchy win over Mikuru Asakura. And I think
building up to the rematch.
He's just friends with Maeda, which is why they're there. But yeah, Pancrase, it's a lot of old dudes, but they're Karen on the show, who's good. And then they have the young atomweight they're into, Sayako, who's like a former bodybuilder. And I think they're actually going to start an atomweight division next year. So it's kind of interesting.
Okay, so there's more to look forward to in the next year for Pancrase, you think?
Yeah, of course. No, I think they went through a rough time, and this year saw a lot of change. I think they're in a position now to start putting on some shows.
Okay. Very quickly, CJ, the women's scene. Anything you'd like to bring up?
Well, as you know, I follow the women's scene pretty closely.
What?
I will say some highlights of the year. Moeri Suda competed on every Deep Jewels show. She was the only
Give that lady a medal.
Yeah, right. Fought 5 times, 4 times for Deep Jewels. So, I mean, the improvement that she's shown for as young as she is, and considering she's been doing MMA for like less than 2 years, she's getting better and better. And I know that Andrew can appreciate her jiu-jitsu game. So that's exciting. But I think the fighter that stuck out the most to me this year, probably Saori Oshima, had a really good year. And I liked her post-fight comments. In her last fight is now saying that it's kind of hard for her to make microweight. So maybe she'll be going back up to atom weight in the future. Maybe she's stuck in some weird Rich Franklin position of she needs to be between the 2 weight classes. But I look forward to seeing her, and hopefully Rising brings her back up because she's super exciting. But I think the story of the women's MMA scene, and for the past couple of years, has been like this new talent that just seems to keep emerging. I know that Rising, Andrew kind of highlighted it, and I kind of have the same sentiment that Rising has these guys that have been the stars for a while, but if you ask me who is going to be leading the promotion in 2023, I don't have an answer for you. I don't think they've found some new talent in a while, whereas the women's MMA scene is quite different. And just looking at Deep Jewels, for example, this Arisa Matsuda girl, former professional baseball player, played for the Kyoto team.
Oh, was it Flora?
Yes, exactly. She actually could have kept playing and stopped playing baseball in order to switch to MMA. And I was kind of like iffy on it. Andrew and I kind of made fun of it, like, it's baseball. It's baseball. That's not like a real athletic sport. Having watched her 2 fights now, she moves very well. Like, you can tell it's like an athlete. And she hits like a Mack truck. I mean, she TKO'd her first opponent with the ground and pound in the first fight, but that opponent wasn't that tough. But in her second fight, she fought Mika Nagano, and Mika Nagano could not take her down. And she took Mika Nagano down and unloaded some incredibly heavy ground and pound. And she was in charge of the entire fight. And I know that she's in Osaka, so I know you'll like her.
Sorry, Andrew. I'm off the Kate Lotus bandwagon now.
I see she trains with Moeri Suda and Aoi Kuriyama down there. But I mean, what's interesting also is she quit to get started in MMA a couple of years ago, but then she got married and had a kid. And so it kind of delayed her MMA debut. But what I saw from someone who's only in their second fight and they have no martial arts background, I was very impressed with what I saw. I'll also say another young fighter in Deep Jewels that impresses me is Machi. It's Machi Fukuda. She came out in her last fight and fought Arami. It was her pro debut, but she had a couple amateur fights this year as well. And it looks like she trains with Mina Kurobe, Emi Fujino, Vivi May, kind of that circle of fighters. And she kind of, like, appearance-wise, looks like a little Itsuki Hirata a little bit. But she did very well, because I know that Andrew and I spoke with Anouk about the fight, and Anouk thought that Arami was going to do very well because Arami is kind of a tough fighter. but Machi's wrestling and her grappling and her chain submission attempts just looks really good for someone making their pro debut. So I'm excited to see what she does in the future as well. And then outside of Deep and Deep Jewels, I'll go to Shuto. The story of the year for Shuto is Chihiro Sawada won the Atomweight Championship and their tournament. And in a hilarious post-fight interview said, I did something my brother never could. I won a Shuto title. So a nice stab at Ryota Sawada right there, who's one championship fighter now.
Who's crying so much right now.
Crying off by the ring. But if people that don't know, I mean, she's been training at AACC since she was 3 years old. Megumi Fuji taught her wrestling since she was a child. And that's why I'm interested. You're finally seeing this generation of people that have been training with MMA fighters since they were children emerging. And she was a high-level wrestler. I mean, becoming like an Olympic level wrestler like Murata Kaneko was in the cards for her abilities. Like, she wrestled in college. Japan has a very high level female wrestling program. If you look at the Olympic medals, I think they've won more than half of the total gold medals ever given to women in women's wrestling is Japan. So they have a very strong program. So I'm very excited for Sawada. And she's interesting because she's got her own way she thinks. I was like, do you want to fight for Rizin? And she was like, no, I don't give a shit about Rizin. I'm not interested in Rizin. She wants to fight abroad. And so maybe like the UFC is in her future, maybe go to one championship like her brother. But it's interesting to see a fighter that's kind of doing their own thing. And she's very talented. Outside of Shuto, we can go over to Pancrase. We already talked about it a little bit. Pancrase, we have Karen, who's scheduled for her third fight on Christmas Day. And she's, considering the train, I think she went to Thailand this year to train, but just considering the situation, she's very good. And her sister, Nori, had that rough fight against Aoi Kuriyama that Andrew and I both sat through and watched. It's kind of a crazy fight, but she came back and won at Deep Jewels. And then she appeared on Japanese TV. So, Team Pravzar gets a lot of attention. And I will say that the reason I bring up the Nori is because when Nori fought in Pancrase, she faced Aoi Kuriyama, who's a Deep Jewels fighter. And then later in the year, she fought in Deep Jewels and fought Miko Nirvana. But she did that as a Pancrase fighter. And Pancrase's Sakamoto was in the crowd watching. And I think it really highlights that I think Deep and Pancrase have a really good working relationship where they're willing to let fighters go back and forth between the promotions. And they seem much more easygoing than a promotion like Shuto, who's hoarding their fighters. Deep is like, if it gets our fighters experience, we'll let them fight Pancrase fighters to help develop the scene. So I just think it's nice to see the cross promotion happening between Deep and Pancrase. But yeah, this year to me, kind of like the year before, has been this new generation emerging. It's kind of funny to think that like Seika Izawa and Saudi Ashima are now like no longer the youngest generation of fighters. There's this already the new generation's poking their heads out.
It's very exciting to hear.
Mm-hmm. I'm very excited about it. Yeah.
One last thing I want to quickly mention is that, so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but K1 have had like this kind of marketing campaign where they've now, it's called K1 Next. And the idea is to look for the next superstar, the next ace of the promotion. But what it seems to have turned out is it's now like who's next to leave the promotion. It seems to be a lot of recent, a lot of fighters and K1 themselves have come out and like announced the contracts, the infamous K1 contracts of, we got Catfish Ryusei Ashizawa, who you guys might be familiar, who got butchered by Yaman. Minoru Kimura, who we've talked about, although that was kind of a given because he had his retirement K1 final match last December. And at the time, last month, very surprising, Takeru's contract expired. But Takeru himself has kind of like now kind of sets some of the groundwork of what he sees his future as. And it seems like he wants to recreate the magic that the match produced. He wants to go like a way of like kind of freelancing or set up his own shows.
I haven't seen the interviews themselves, but I read some articles where they talk about like what was said in the interviews.
So yeah, he's been on Gong magazine, like he said stuff on Abema talking about it.
Yeah, wasn't he talking? I mean, it sounds like he wants to fight abroad, is what it sounds like. And that's the impression I got.
Yeah, the fight. I mean, the fight that everyone, I think, most people would assume would be happening is the Rodtang fight, the Rodney Tang fight in one. Well, the impression I got before is that Taku got it out of the K1 contract. I don't know how restrictive his contract was compared to everyone else's, but I would feel before his interviews and for him like talking about it, I would have been surprised he would have gone from K1 to K1's contract to one's. But yeah, I think what happened with the match opened a lot of eyes, especially like his eyes that money can be made. There's money out there. No, and also that's almost feel like we can't put the genie back in the bottle. We've got to take advantage of what that was.
My thoughts on Takeru and my feelings are he has earned the right to do whatever the hell he wants to do at this point, and nobody can be upset about it. He gave everything to K1. No, they can get mad, but they have no right to get mad.
No. If he, I mean, I don't know how Andrew would feel, but if he decided that, all right, I'm gonna give this MMA thing a try, I say
that because I don't think that's the route he's going. It's interesting you bring one championship because one championship, didn't they say they're doing 50 shows in Lumpini next year?
Yeah, they announced that, and they're on Channel 7 over there, which is
yes, Takeru versus Rodtang would be kind of cool in that environment.
Yeah, I'm not now. I don't know, like all his plans, he might realize like, oh shit, this isn't going to come to fruition.
Isn't he also a big
Rodtang thing?
Isn't he also like a big pro wrestling guy? Doesn't he say he wants to do pro wrestling?
I don't know. Maybe Andrew, you've heard stuff like that, but he does love pro wrestling. They had a video on Abema of him going to an AEW show.
The Koji fight in Abu Dhabi also had to pique his interest because that's not just anybody. That's a Japanese fighter from K1 now fighting on a Mayweather card. So you got to think that things like this, as you said, you can't put the genie back in the lamp. He's seeing that there are options for really big fights that he could do outside of Japan, and maybe he's exploring those options. The problem is, I don't think America is realistic because there's no premier kickboxing promotion in America. So it's got to be Europe or like one championship.
I could, and Dogman has also brought this up, tweeted about this, that I could see him promoting his own events along with Abema. Like these kind of pay-per-view events.
If he was smart, that's what he would do. He would do what Mikuru is doing and cutting out the middleman and just kind of maybe fight in it a couple times to help build its like fan base and then transition into like a promoter / like fight booker role to keep the people there.
Babalu, did you say that Ashizawa left K1 as well?
Ashizawa, yeah, that was also confirmed as of this week, I believe.
Here's what remember what Cozy also said when he said he wanted to get out of his contract, he had to pay K1 like a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
Also, not to mention that he left, Yuta Kubo left, Ren left. I feel like there was somebody else in there who may have left for Rise, but I could be wrong.
You mean Taiga? Did you mention Taiga?
Oh yeah, Taiga. Yeah.
Well,
that's
the list might get bigger. There's talk that Rukia Ampo might be following them in that direction.
Oh yeah. So and this is listen, I love the guys like Beyond Kickboxing and I love J Wolf, but I'm gonna like K1 is like at least business wise and contractual wise is a shitty promotion.
I don't think anyone would argue over that. And like you've obviously had more first-hand experience of that than a lot of folks.
Well, yeah, as I stated many times before, when we used to have LJ as our translator, we were going to try to do some stuff with K1, and whoever it was that was corresponding with her was like, "Oh, you need to pay us money for interviews," and that's like no, not good.
Yeah, and I think they certainly. And I think they've been very they've isolated themselves.
They're basically the equivalent of like a J-pop manager. That's the best way I can describe because I've heard K-pop or whatever, in terms of just how much control they have over their fighters, and it's so absurd, and it doesn't surprise me in the least that so many of them are leaving. I'm hoping that it might change eventually, but I don't think it's going to.
Well, so the interesting addition to, I mean, most people take notice of the people leaving, but one dude that came in, Isaichi, who fought for Rizin and has mostly does a lot of Muay Thai in Japan. He came into K1. He competed in the bantamweight tournament last week and came up short in the finals. But even before that, he was allowed to continue. He was allowed to fight outside of K1. So I don't know, but there, and even maybe the Takeru thing was like, it's okay. They think, okay, it's Takeru. We don't want to keep him, like, we don't want to make a big PR fuss about this. We'll just let him go.
You're Takeru, and you're seeing tension get this match with Floyd on New Year's Eve. You're seeing basically some guy, same generation as you, flying past you in terms of the fight game ladder, and is going to presumably fight in Boxing America whenever that happens. And you're just kind of stuck in K1. It's kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised if his contract was like, oh yeah, you could do appearances on a BEMA or whatever, but anything else,
He has to go for K1, I believe, from what I've gathered. It all had to go for K1, I believe. So
yeah, and that's so absurd. It's you hurt, you hurt your fighters, because how the fuck they promote themselves, it's even UFC lets their guys do grappling. They won't let them fight combat wise, but they'll let them do grappling tournaments and other things. And that's so it's the fact that UFC is less stringent with their contracts than it seems like K1. That's I don't know why you wouldn't want your guys to try to get more exposure. That just brings more exposure to you. I get it. If you don't want Takeru fighting on a knockout fight, okay, I get it. That I totally get. But it's just why would you not want them to talk to English, in English outlets, because I certainly doubt that. I certainly listen. Takeru went to that AEW show. Nobody recognized him. Nobody knew who the fuck he was. And the guy who posted that photo was like, "Oh, is this guy a celebrity or something?" With all these cameras around, it was kind of legit. It was the fact that I'm the only one who may have recognized Takeru in the entirety of the city of New York, and was not Japanese. Would not have surprised me.
That's the point. You got to meet him.
Yeah, and I sincerely doubt that he had trouble walking the streets. I don't think that he couldn't keep the masses away from him, because nobody knows who he is, and that's not an insult to him, but just that's just how K1 is, or just how I guess the insular kickboxing Japanese kickboxing scene is. Oh, I was saying, if the rumor is true that Ampo leaves, I have no idea who's going to be next for Rise. I don't know. Satoshi Ishii, maybe. I
don't think he's there anymore. Thankfully, I think he might be just doing boxing. No, I mean, the good thing about, they do have a lot of good guys on there. It's just whether they break the barrier into the casual audience.
I have a question for you, Babalu. Do a lot of these problems seem financially based? I mean, there's no secret that it's not a secret that I've always heard that kickboxers get paid significantly less than MMA fighters in Japan on average.
Yeah.
Which is why that kickboxers essentially live off of having 1,000 nickel and dime sponsorships, where it's this yakiniku shop gives me $50, this place gives me $100, they give me $100. Now my uniform looks like it has 50,000 logos on it because everyone's giving me $100. So that might be a reason. A lot of these guys see something like the match happen, and they see fighters make decent money, and then they see these fighters going abroad and making better money, and they're thinking, I could do that too. So that's why they want to leave.
I think, yeah, I mentioned that to you. I think that's what's going to happen. That's going to happen with Catfish Ashizawa. I think because he actually retired 2 years ago, but then he came to K1. I think he ventured up with hip hop and maybe some other Abema pay-per-view specials. I imagine he'll now go and try and capitalize on like the success of the match or whatever, like breaking down and whatnot. I can see Rukia doing the same, because Rukia has a very successful YouTube channel where, you know, he gets like millions of views for like having street fighters coming into his like sparring sessions with Kosei Yamada. Oh, sorry, I can't believe I forgot. Kosei Yamada's retiring at Rise. Well, it's too late. I
Too much going on.
Too much going on. Leaving us so soon. But anyway, yeah, he's a very successful YouTube channel where he does all these kind of like clickbaity, like watch me beat up 5, you know, street fighters in a row all at the same time. Gets millions of views. I can see him like doing that. I think they've done that with Rukia and Abema. They've had pay-per-view specials. I think that's what a lot are going to do. I now actually think, is this going to become the Mikuru YouTube thing, where now when he did it and everyone else does it, it kind of oversaturates the market essentially, because everyone fucking had a YouTube channel after, and I've started noticing a kind of dip, or like the peak. We've passed it.
It dipped drastically. I mean, the amount of fighters doing YouTube stuff just thankfully has dropped off significantly.
I'm not, my Japanese is like third grade level, but at least after every post-fight thing on Rizin, I've heard like YouTube like less and less. I can't remember the last time like a fighter actually said like, please follow me on my YouTube channel. Like, I can't remember like the last time, honestly. It's like been that long.
I heard it at the last Deep show, unfortunately, but yes, I have heard it less and less.
Okay, that's deep. That's fine. You know, they're up and coming, but like on Rizin, I don't think I've heard. I can't recall the last time like I've heard like that on a Rizin show.
Yeah,
but that's what I think. I think if we're gonna get all these breaking down clones and whatnot, then I don't want to see that, and I think that will soon fizzle out.
What you gotta worry about though is the promotions themselves turning into breaking.
I hope not.
I swear to God, I was talking with Jim Ozeki of the Yamato Damashi podcast the other day. And, you know, we were talking about breaking down, and, you know, listen, I'm like, Rizin, listen, it would not surprise me in the least if we see Rizin try to go down a route like that. It would not be like, I could see Sakaki Bar like frothing in the mouth of like wanting to do like a breaking down type thing for Rizin at some point.
I think the one defense against that is that Mikuru would not sit by quietly and let that happen.
That would probably end up them splitting, definitely.
And Mikuru's main sponsor is a very successful attorney who is very wealthy, who loves him. And I think he could just rip them without even suing them, just mock it on his own social media, and it would kill it before it ever started. Very quickly, highlights of the year. I know, CJ, you mentioned your stuff regarding the ladies, but is there any highlights, fights from 2022 you would like to bring up that people should watch over again? Highlights of the year. It's a good question. Think back on it.
Would you like Andrew to go first?
Yeah, let Andrew go first.
Oh, fuck. Highlights. You mean like Japanese MMA in general, or
let's go let's stick with Japan because we're a bunch of weeps.
Yes, of course. Obviously the Mayweather Flowergate thing, because I know it's such like the cultural reaction to it, and just like was so disparate between how people in Japan felt versus how overseas geeks felt about it, because that was like, we were laughing at Discord. We thought it was hilarious, and then you go on Twitter, and there are people in Japan like apologizing, like begging for forgiveness,
literally on their knees,
probably on their knees while they're typing away on their mobile phone or a computer or whatever. And then you have Sakaki Bar doing his whole thing.
Yeah,
you have Ensign saying I would beat the shit out of the guy, or at least implying that. So it's like the cultural difference between that little incident, and you know, if not to mention like it just added onto like a layer of shit that's been happening in Rizin altogether, which is like, Jesus. I think I think Rizin may have had the shittiest year in 2022 when it comes to like almost anything. They can't take a step without something like coming up. Other than that, let's see other memorable things. Let's see the match. I think I think CJ said it best though that like this probably wouldn't have happened if COVID hadn't happened and just like kind of like shit just like stopped. I mean, listen, one of the highest gates ever for a combat sports show, Tokyo Dome. Literally every seat that he could legally fill in that thing was like, and the ratings for it. And then they lost. Not to mention they lost the Fuji TV thing like weeks before, and it still was a success on replay on a beam or whatever it was.
I don't have a fight per se that sticks out as my favorite, but I will say that some highlights to me were I think Takeda had a really good year. Even losing to Spike Carlisle, I think he really emerged on like a new level as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his fights were super exciting. I think he always goes for it. He's always going for the suplexes. So I enjoyed watching Takeda fight this year. Even though it was near the very beginning of the year, Rin Nakai had like a really good 3-fight tournament win where she smashed everybody.
Was that this year? Actually, you mentioned on Shoe's show. I was like, was that even this year?
It's the very beginning. I think it was in March. But yeah, she like Rin Nakai, for as crazy as she is, had a very good March, and I want to see her keep fighting. There's not a particular fight that sticks out.
Okay, I'll say this. In terms of match wise, I'm gonna say Panchan Rina. I can't remember the last time I had like a big match feel, like legitimate, like goosebumps. Like I was up whatever time it was, like 4 or 5 a.m. I did not feel tired at all by the time that fight came on, and was glued to my computer screen thanks to my VPN. Excuse me. There's no, I still can't think of any other fight, Japan or even Oliveira Makachev didn't leave me with that type of like I can't like that anti thing like the moment before the fight. I had that attention talk through. I don't know if you had the same feeling like the moments before, like that moment before like the match starts. If you got that. Just
I mean, I was content. It already lived up to the hype after the VTR. I think they could have just said after the VTR, they could have said, right, good night, everyone. See you later.
I'll say this in terms of JMMA. I will definitely say that Izawa making kind of usurping Ayaka as the best atom weight in the world, I think is also something that should be noted. I think CJ, you probably were thinking that or would have said that anyway.
Well, my thing about that is it's one of those things where I'm waiting to see what happens. It's hard to talk about Izawa without seeing what happens on New Year's Eve. It's like
maybe hold off on that.
Yeah, because I mean, Siwoo Park also just beat the shit out of Hamasaki. Like that was a really impressive performance. I think she broke her arm with a kick.
Yeah.
So I mean, whoever wins this tournament is going to emerge as a very skilled fighter. I just wish that the fight's getting zero attention.
But I think it's the fact that Izawa beat Hamasaki like down the board twice. It was like, it was. There's like no question. It wasn't like the second Kana fight where like, it was kind of like, yeah, maybe Kano could have won. It's like no, she shut down Ayaka as the number one atom weight in the world.
Was that this year?
Yeah,
I think it was.
Which one?
Okay, so the first one was last year, but the second one was this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Male side MMA, men's MMA. Do we count Satoshi? I know he's kind of like, fuck it. No. Satoshi's good. You know what? Clever finally getting his fucking belt and fucking match for like what seemed like ages he should have gotten that shit. And just like proving like, he is like the best featherweight.
I'm gonna follow my own what I always do, and I don't see Clever winning on this Rising 40 card, but let's see. Maybe because I say that he'll win now.
That's why I don't like doing these year-end things for the year ends, because anything can change. I can look like a complete fool.
You know who's had a really good year, and it's kind of surprising, is Suzuki.
Which one?
Chihiro. Right?
Boy Toy Suzuki.
Boy. That should be his nickname, Boy Toy Suzuki.
I just pulled up his thing. I mean, Suzuki went 4-0 this year, one kickboxing victory, 3-0 in MMA, beat Hagiwara and Hitomoto. So, I mean, Suzuki's arguably had maybe one of the better years of any of the fighters in Rizin.
It is. It's just the scandals this made people think. Well, people ignore it.
Everybody's got to make money. I mean, Poirier makes his money his way. Suzuki makes his money his way. Panchan Rina makes her money her way. Everyone's got to do something.
Is being a boy toy the best base for MMA?
It might be.
Very quickly, my highlights. I guess pretty much what you guys have said. For me personally, maybe my show of the year was, of course, Deep Kick. Just the whole experience of going there, like just even getting the ticket, having to like contact, text message a number saying, I want this standing ticket, please. And then getting the ticket and then being given like the invoice and like the bank, like the bank account details how to pay. And then like getting there and just it's your typical standard crazy Osaka crowd. And I loved it. It was great. Because for all, yes, the Deep Kick, they're stuck in 2009. They produce, DVDs, like not even like one full DVD of the show. They released the DVDs like part 1, part 2, part 3. So it's really like, it's almost like your child's nativity play. I think they just sell it to the people like the fires and whatnot. But the experience itself is fantastic. And it's good to see like some of the talent there, like previous years have emerged, like Kan Nakamura. Like I think the Kimura brothers also from there. And there's still like a lot of the guys you'll see in the kickboxing portions of Rizin and of course Rise will come from Deep Kick. So it's a fun org to follow.
So and personal highlight of mine was I really enjoyed the fact that Team Pravzara, the former members of Team Date, are actually winning fights and becoming champions.
Becoming prominent.
If you had asked me what was going to happen to Team Date in 2010, I would have laughed and never stopped laughing. But now that they've actually produced a legitimate fighter, it's insane to me. And getting to interview them was a true highlight. And I'm interviewing them again this week. So brilliant. I am excited for that as well. But yeah, just it's the most JMMA thing of all time is that Team Date members are actually becoming prominent MMA fighters.
I'll also, I'll kind of adjacent to Pancras, and yeah, JMMA adjacent. Kind of Kinoshita, Yusaku Kinoshita, like the way he made his debut in UFC, for Road UFC, whatever the fuck it was. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, kind of just going, and also kind of adjacent to that, Pancras as well. Toshiomi Kazuma making it to the finals of Road UFC. So we got two Japanese people who are looking to be successful so far in UFC. Let's hope that fucking star doesn't burn out like quickly, but like, yeah, I think the rise of Kinoshita is one of the things that's like, especially because let's be honest, Pancras welterweight division is dog shit. I'm sorry, CJ, but it's hard.
Welterweight in Japan is dog shit. Across all disciplines, probably.
I think I actually commentated his last Pancras fight, where it's like, oh, he's fighting a 42-year-old man. This is going to be bad, and it was bad. It was bad very quickly.
But his rise, like his kind of like his up and up, like it's a perfect career trajectory. And for somebody who did not face kind of legitimate competition until he did in Rizin, until he did in UFC, listen, he proved he's a real deal at welterweight and could be a force to be reckoned with. I really look forward to his next UFC fight.
Let's call her up there because we're approaching WeAreRizin levels of duration here. Andrew, promote your stuff.
WeAreRizin on YouTube, back on SoundCloud because I'm no longer being lazy. For all you audio freaks out there, Citra as well.
When's your next show?
Next show, Jesus. I might have an opportunity to interview Seika Izawa. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to work out. I do have an interview with Naoki Inoue that's in the can, so to speak, but because I'm on vacation and I don't have I'm really too lazy to be doing anything, like any video editing or anything. It's like gonna stay there until I get back home. I don't know, preview show, either when they figure out when this show is gonna air, or I guess that means that 2 days beforehand, I guess. So yeah, they're probably the week of.
CJ, I know it's this is going to be in your YouTube channel and your Spotify, but plug away, please.
Yeah, it's the website, solo-cocker.com. I have be releasing an interview with Zinni Huang ahead of her Pancreas 25 fight. Talk about some interesting stuff from the One Championship days. And then I'm interviewing Karen, interviewing Nori, and I'm probably going to do some Rising 40 stuff as well. Just haven't decided what yet. So keep an eye out for that stuff. You can find it on my YouTube channel or on my Twitter, usually.
And as usual for myself, I have nothing to plug, but I highly recommend the Beyond Kick website and the Discord that comes along with it.
So Babalu, with the deep kick stuff, when you hear about, I want to see if you're similar to me, when you hear about like this exclusive promotion that's like this weird little thing, and then you finally get to go to it, isn't it awesome?
It is.
I've never been to one of those things and been disappointed. Every time I go to some weird MMA show, it's like, oh, this is amazing.
So, I mean, I love Deep Kick. I thought the show itself was a lot of fun, but the best part about the whole experience was seeing a Deep Kick doormat or carpets in the hallway where they sell like the merchandise and whatnot. So I guess it was a carpet company that sponsors Deep Kick, but they had a custom like Deep Kick doormat. I don't think it was for sale, unfortunately, but
it was 20 years ago.
It was.
My favorite, it's like when you go to a Deep Jewels show and they put up the posters of all their champions. I'm like, yes, Amanda Lucas.
Forever champion.
Forever champion.
Forever champion. And with that, I think it's maybe a good point to end the show. Thank you guys for just spending the last couple of hours talking nonsense. Hope you have all enjoyed. We'll catch you in the other side, 2023.